Oh, okay. I'm deeply, deeply sorry. I think my mic has been off all the while. Sorry about that. Thank you for drawing my attention, to that. Okay, so let me back up a bit. Um, I was saying that this is day 5 of the Parables for Profit program, and today we are looking at module 4, which is on relationship building. How the parables of Christ can help you to build strong and profitable relationships. My name remains Olatunji Shobodu. This is brought to you on the platform of Emet Leadership Academy. At Emet Leadership Academy, where I'm founder and CEO, we nurture leaders based on truth. Leaders based on truth. So I did say again, just to recap, that we started out on Monday. This 10-day program. This is a 10-day program. We meet, at this time, 9:30 p.m. West African time. We meet uh, um, every day for 10 days, and this is, I believe, day 5. So we have gone halfway today. And on the first day, it was the opening session, and the opening session focused on, giving you the reasons why you need to pay attention to of Christ, what is there for you, and how the benefits that they offer. And I did provide an overview of how the remaining 9 days of the program look like. So on the second day, we looked at career growth, how the parables can be utilized to grow your career. On the third day, we looked at business growth, how the parables can be utilized to grow your business. On the fourth day, yesterday, we looked at exemplary leadership, and that was module 3. And today we're looking at shipbuilding. We're going through 9 days to look at each the modules over a period of 9 days, because we identified 9 priority areas of your life, of your aspiration, variables can benefit you. So tomorrow we're going to be looking at managing finances. So day after we look at managing your investments, day at character development, and that after that we would look at healthy living, and finally we would look at supernatural, growth, or if you like, you know, building your spirit man, as it were. And on the 1st of July, which is like the wrap-up session, is a bonus session actually. I will go through again just to summarize, and perhaps to also give you an opportunity to enroll for the Profit from Parables boot camp, if you will. So again, I said that our approach in the last couple of days has been that we focus on a particular area of impact, a particular priority area, and we speak to, we review a handful of parables. We can look at all the parables over the course of this, 9 days. We only spend 45 minutes together. And, so I just summarize them. I just use, some sample parables to illustrate to you so that you can get the gist, and so that you can also see why you need to commit yourself to a more detailed adventure, in these all important parables. As we say, if Jesus did not teach without these parables, if he insisted that his people, it was important for his people to know, all of these parables, and if he accomplished the kinds of feat that he accomplished, then you and I, will be foolish, if you permit me to use that word, not paying attention to the same parables, digging out what is hidden therein, and taking advantage of it. So we proceed with the series, and let's begin to look at the subject matter of relationship building. We looked at leadership yesterday, relationship building today. So, what are some of the parables that will make you that will help you to build good relationships? Again, pardon the typo there, but we're focused on relationship building. And there's a sense, of course, in which leadership also entails relationship building, but we're looking at relationship building beyond the confines, of just leadership, beyond the confines of leadership. All right, so I want to run through the parable of the tower builder, the parable of the speck and the log, the parable of the fishing net, the parable of the budding fig tree, the parable of the invited guests, and the parable of the good Samaritan. The parable of the good Samaritan. Now, so if we, each of these parables, they put in your hands, very important nuggets that help you to build relationships, strong and profitable relationships. What should be your approach to relationship building? What's your own approach? But look at the approach that we're told will be in our best interest. Okay, what is the parable of the tower builder? You remember the reference when Jesus says, when he said, if you want to follow me, all right, you have to be committed. Okay, you have to leave mother and father and sister and all of that and be committed to following me. And then he went ahead and said, which of you wants to build a tower and will not sit down to count the cost, so that he doesn't start the project and puts the foundation in place and gets to a point where he can no longer continue. Why? Because he doesn't have the resources. He said, well, that would be an embarrassing situation because people will come, and they will make fun of him. That look at that man, look at that woman. He started that wonderful project, but he got stuck. He can't finish it. All right. He was too ambitious. Okay. And then he re-emphasized that if you are not willing, all right, to give up certain things, you cannot be his disciple. You can't be his disciple. Now, the point that you would get here is that relationships are like building towers, especially profitable relationships. That is, relationship that will add value to you, relationship that will bring you concrete benefits. They are like building towers. And therefore, because a tower is a very valuable asset. I mean, you want to build a skyscraper, it's a very valuable asset, very valuable, most valuable asset. Okay. So relationships are like that. They are like that. I mean, he started by saying, if you want to follow me, you have to leave. If you're not willing to leave mother and father to sacrifice, them, then you can't follow. And then he went ahead and used the tower as an example. Now, supporting what he said, which means that you should look at relationships as projects, in quotes, that it's an attempt to build a tower. Now, if you want to build a tower, then you need to count the cost. What does counting the cost mean? It means you need to be ready for what it's going to take. You need to know what it's going to take, and you need to be willing to give what it's going to take. So one of the things that this parable makes us to understand is that if your target is to build profitable relationships, then it's going to cost something. Not just that, it's going to cost you something. All right. There are going to be trade-offs. you are going to need to reorder your priorities. If you are not willing to do that, then you can start a relationship just like the person who starts the tower by putting up a foundation, but that relationship isn't likely to develop to the point where it becomes an asset to you. If a man puts on the foundation of a building only, and that's where he or she gets stuck, that can't count as a serious asset that will add value to him. That was not his intention. And so, is basically cutting short himself and for the most part, wasting his time. A lot of efforts will be wasted, resources may even be wasted just because, he didn't have enough. He didn't prepare himself to go the whole hog. That's it. You never have a profitable relationship. You never have a strong and dependable, worthwhile relationship without, investing in it, without you committing to it, without you understanding that it's going to take a lot from you, all right, to get to the point where the relationship will be worth your while. Just like it's going to take a lot from the builder to get the tower, to finish the tower, to get to the point where the builder can take advantage of it. All right. So, do you have what it takes? Stop going into relationships with the hope of building, of making them relationships of value without being mindful of what it's going to take. And it's going to take something from you. If you are going into a relationship thinking that you want to go and benefit from the other party, you want to have somebody that you can depend on, somebody that you can call on, at any time, somebody that can add value to you, you will never get to that position until and unless you invest tangibly, significantly to nurture, that relationship, to build it to that point. That's what the tower, the one who is building the tower does. That's what you and I must do. All right. Too often we are casual about relationships and we want those relationships to become, backbones, to become, people we can turn to when we need help, at different points in our journey. And then we're disappointed. And we're disappointed for the reason that they don't come through for us. They turn out not to be very valuable to us. And we begin to ask ourselves, was this worth it? I mean, imagine, this person isn't coming through for me. You are disappointed. And the reason is not so much because of the person. The reason is because of you, because you have not built the relationship to the point, where the tower is standing and it can add tangible, value to you. And then one of the implications you'll find if you read this Bible well is that, I'm asking the question, how many towers can you build? How many towers can you build? All right. How many towers? What that means is not how many houses. It says how many towers, because a tower is a major project. And when you finish it, it's meant to be a major contributor, all right, to your net worth. Now, how many of those do you have the resources to build, knowing what it takes to build them? How many of those can you possibly build, knowing how long it takes to build them? The same thing with relationships. The point is, you can't build so many relationships. The point is, not every acquaintance should develop into a relationship, a strong and profitable relationship. You don't need too many of them because they are taking resources, they are taken out of you, and there is only a finite you. There is only so much that you can give. And so, again, what some people do is that they try to establish many relationships and they only have finite time, finite resources, even your emotions, because relationships are emotional. And if you're trying to build too many at a time, it can be emotionally draining. You don't need too many relationships. Relationships indeed, not just acquaintances. All right. That's what we're talking about here. That's what we're talking about here. Okay. And of course, abandoned towers are not a pretty sight. Abandoned towers are not a pretty sight. I think that's a good way to start looking at how relationships, how parables helps us, to take a fresh look at relationships. Again, like I did say, that's just a summary. All right. When it comes to the Profit from Parables bootcamp, we will drill down and bring out a lot more things so that you can use them practically. But from the little that I have said, you must have seen, you must have seen certain perspectives about relationship building that you didn't quite pay attention to, hitherto, that you didn't pay attention to, hitherto. Okay, so you know that's looking at the first parable to see how that helps us. Okay, now let's look at another perspective to relationships. And here I want to talk about the attitudes that sustains relationships. All right. There is an attitude to maintain. When you're trying to build a relationship, there is an attitude to maintain. Earlier on, we have spoken about the parable of the speck and the log. Okay, what does the parable of the speck and the log talk about? The parable of the speck and the log, counsels us. It says, do not judge. So be careful. Don't make yourself into a judge. All right, because the way you judge others is the same way that you will be judged. The standard that you use for others is the standard that will be used to measure you as well, to judge you as well. So refrain from judging. But it then tells us, what uses an illustration. It says, look, why do you want to, why are you pointing? Why are you trying to pick the speck from the eyes of somebody else when you have a log in your own eyes? When you have a log in your own eyes, that's a pretty profound statement. It says, look, don't don't be preoccupied with the log in somebody else's eyes. You take care of, the speck in somebody else's eyes. You take care of the log in your eyes. Okay, take care of the log in your eyes. It said, it's a hypocrite who tries to remove the speck from the eyes of somebody else when he or she has a log in their own eyes. Now, this parable uh, gives a very important insight into what your attitude, my attitude towards sustenance of relationships must be. Okay, it says, trust is crucial to relationships. What essentially makes a relationship strong, what gives it the potential to profit you, is that it is founded on trust, or that it is characterized by trust. So when we're building relationships, that's what we're trying to build. In the main, that's what we're trying to build. Now, if you are judging or you are judgmental, you can't build a strong relationship with anybody. If you are judgmental, if all you do is looking out for the weaknesses of, your other partner or the person that you are trying to build relationship with, and it doesn't matter what kind of relationship, all right? It can be a business relationship, it can be any kind of relationship, it can be, a husband and wife relationship. If you are always about judging, about looking out for faults, about pointing out what people are not doing well, all right, about complaining, so to speak, if you are always about trying to make it look as if the other partner is the one that has problems, you don't have any problem, you can't build trust. You can't build trust and you can't sustain any relationship if that's the attitude that you bring. Your attitude is not that you can't identify that there are your partner has shortcomings, but it is what is your motivation? How regularly do you preoccupy yourself with the faults of the others? All right. So, your motivation in order to build relationships, and what this is telling us about staying away from judging others, is let your motivation be to add value. If you are judging others, your interest is not to add value. Your interest is to show them how weak they are, is to show them how inadequate they are, is to show them that invariably, without even saying it, that they are inferior to you. If you and I, are friends and we want our relationship to grow, you can't always be pointing to my weaknesses. You are making me look as if I don't, I'm not worthy of you. You are making me look as if you are better than me. You are making it look as if you don't have faults just because I'm not talking about that. And that relationship isn't going to go far. So, what this is telling us is that, look, if you want that relationship with that other person to go far, never dwell on their faults. Instead, understand that every time you see faults in them, that fault you've seen is pointing to the fact that you have bigger faults in you to address. One of the things that many people don't pay attention to, if at all they try to think through this parable, is the fact that he said, why are you trying to remove a speck in somebody's eyes when you have a log in your eyes? What that is saying is that however big the problem you have seen in somebody else is, however big you may think it is, that your own problem, which you have not identified, unfortunately, or which you have identified but you are not paying attention to, is a bigger problem. Now, the interesting thing is that you may even think that your own problem, even if you identified it, relative to that person's, is not an issue. But no, the insight we are receiving from this parable is saying that however small, however insignificant you may think that your own shortcoming is, even assuming you have identified it, all right, it is a bigger problem. It is a log compared to whatever it is that you've seen in the eyes of somebody else, in the eyes of your partner. So you concentrate on improving yourself. Be aware that every time you see somebody's weakness, that is a mirror. It's asking you, you have a bigger problem. All right. So you should focus on improving self so that you can add value to that relationship. The best way to add value to a relationship is to continue to improve yourself so that you can continue to add value, and is to pay less attention to the shortcomings of your partner, all right, and to be more supportive, be committed, all right, to supporting your partner more. That way, you will develop a very strong, a very profitable relationship. Okay? And we did say that the fact that you are trying to remove a speck from somebody's eyes when you have a log in your eyes is evidence of hypocrisy. Now, hypocrisy will undermine relationships. You can't come to a relationship with pretense, with deceit, all right, with make believe. You come to the relationship with your authentic self. And if you are truly authentic, meaning also that you are a person of integrity and honesty, then you will not celebrate the fault or the weaknesses in the lives of somebody else. You won't. That won't be your preoccupation. That will not be your preoccupation. Okay? If you are going to talk about it at all, you're going to talk about it less frequently. You're going to talk about it not judgmentally, not trying to write off the person. You're going to talk about it, all right, with love, okay, emphasizing what the person may be losing, okay, and suggesting that maybe the person is not aware. All right, so there's a way to address it, but that's, a more detailed uh, discussion, for the main program itself. So that is the insight that you get from the parable of the speck and the log. You can see how different aspects of that parable empower us to make the most of our relationships, to make the most of our relationships. And some of us may be able to identify why some of our relationships have not gotten very far. Why some of our relationships haven't gotten very far. Now, let's look at, another dimension. And here I said, how to sort the wheat from the chaff. How to sort the wheat from the chaff. Now, you see, the relationship building is something that you and I have to go out of our way to do. Okay, we talked about the person who wants to build a tower earlier on. Notice that that person was not forced to build a tower. It was his own initiative. He said, who is it who wants to build a tower? So it's important that you and I make effort to build relationships. We must go out for it. We must open our eyes. We must seek relationships. Why? Because they are assets. Like a tower is an asset to anyone who builds it. Relationships are assets to you and I. Everyone needs a set of strong relationships. Jesus understood that very clearly, and he had very strong relationships. He had strong relationships. He could send people to say, look, go to this place, go and, unlock that coat and bring it to me. If the owner asks you, tell them that I have use for it. You don't just say that without having, a good reputation, okay, in the community, which will come from the quality of relationships that you have with influential people in the community. Okay, so you need to go out to build your towers. And like we said before, you need to be selective of which towers you build, you attempt to build. What the parable of the fishing net tells us is this. It tells us about the fisherman who goes out, okay, to catch fish. He said, the kingdom of heaven is like that. And he said, the fisherman throws out his net and draws in a haul of fish. But guess what? In that haul of fish, there are good fish and there are bad fish. Okay? He can't do anything with bad fish, but he needs to get the good fish. But both of them are mixed up in the net. So, in your attempt to build relationships, what are we talking about? You are going to come across the good people and the bad people. All right. So, it may start with an acquaintance. That is you using your net to draw the fish you. But you must now go back, get to the point where you separate the good fish from the bad fish. You want to, put the bad fish aside because they are not useful. They offer no benefit to your life, and you need to get rid of them. But you need to now, note the good fish and then invest your effort, your energy, your resources to build those relationships. To build those relationships. So, relationship building is like fishing. First of all, you must take the initiative. You need it. It is an imperative for fruitful living. We all need relationships, but not all relationships are value added. We need relationships that will add value to us, not the ones that will take away from us, because relationships are capable of adding to you or destroying you. If you go back to the parable of the sower, it tells about a point where he said that a man sowed on thorny ground, and then the weeds or the thorns grew up and they choked the crop, and the crop died. That means the effort of that man was destroyed. Why? Because his crop was growing within the wrong company. So the company that you keep, the relationships that you maintain, if they are weeds, they will choke. They will choke. All right? So you must always, and this is a process that is continual. All right? All those relationships that we're keeping, all those people that we're referring to as good friends, that we're saying, oh, we have strong relationships, you need to ask yourself, what value are they adding to you? Because as long as you are keeping them, they are drawing something from you. Whether it's emotional, whether it's psychological, whether it's resources. If you are maintaining relationships, and you note what we said, you are investing in relationships, they are taking something away from you. So you had better make sure that what they are taking away from you is an investment that they have the capacity to repay. That when you build them into, a credible, strong relationships, they can offer you value. They can add value to you. They can bring profit into your life. So sorting is a must. You don't need everyone. That's why we said you can't, you don't build too many towers. Even the richest of men do not build too many towers, for the sheer reason of what it takes to put a tower that is a true asset in place. That's how relationships are. All right? So that's how relationships are. So again, you see that from the parable of the fishing net, there is such value to help us, to guide us on how to sort the wheat from the chaff, so that our relationship efforts are more effectively conducted, so that we don't waste away, so that we don't burn out, so that we don't, harm ourselves, pierce ourselves through with many sorrows, as it were, in our attempt to build so many relationships. It isn't the number of relationships that you have, the network that you have, that is important. It is the quality that is important. And, a leaner network where everybody is committed to you as you are committed to them, it brings more to your table. It brings more profit to you than having so many relationships. Okay, so that is the insight that you have from the parable of the fishing net. Again, a summary, if I might add. Um, let's look at the parable of the growing seed. The parable of the growing seed. And it gives you an insight into how relationships develop. Okay. What this parable says, is that it talks about a man who basically, wakes up, goes ahead and plants seeds. He said, and he's waking up, he's sleeping, the seeds germinate, and they keep growing. And first, the air comes out, and then the corn, and then the full corn in the air, and then the full corn in the air. Now, that seed that parable is a very short parable, but it's also very profound. And for the purpose of relationship here, let me just say that it calls again, your attention and my attention to what we are investing in the relationship. All right, that man went out and he sowed. He sowed the seed. So, what are you investing? You need to invest in your relationships. Don't expect to have relationships that will be profitable if you are not investing in that. If you are not investing in that, because, and then it tells you that relationships take time to develop. They take time to develop. They take time to develop. It's not the day that he throws the seed in the ground, that it shows up. Okay? That's not how it happens. You want a strong relationship, you want a profitable relationship, it's going to take time to develop. And the reason is that it takes time to develop trust, because trust is at the core of any relationship that will offer you lasting profit. Take note of that. Top core. Trust is at the core, must be at the core, is the foundation, is what holds, what the a strong relationship that is capable of adding profit to you, what is capable, what sustains it. Okay, it's what sustains it. So it takes time to build trust. Okay, it takes time to build trust. Now, relationships also, and you need to pay attention here, they go through certain stages. They go through certain stages. For those who, have studied team building, all right, trying to develop a relationship is like trying to build a team. They go through stages. There are certain stages that they go through. Notice, he said, first of all, the air will come out. If you plant a seed, the seed will be transformed, all right, in the ground, and then you will see one leaf or two that comes out, the air, and as it goes on, as it develops, then you will see the corn. Now, talking about, I believe, maize now, and then you will see the full corn in the air. You will see the full corn inside the air. If you look at maize, you will see, those leaves, and then you see the maize hanging in between, those leaves. So that's the way it is. There are stages that your relationship will go through. Don't hurry them. Those stages cannot be hurried. Relationships that offer value are not built overnight. All right. We're not talking just of friendship. Yes, you and I can become friends, but how much friendship? All right. And the strength of friendship differs. How many friends can you truly say you have a strong relationship with? How many friends can you run to, like that man ran to his friend at midnight to go and ask for bread? How many of such friends, do you have? Okay, how many of such friends? You can't have too many of such friends. If you do, then it means you have really done very good work. But the kinds of friends that we are talking about, who are friends indeed, as friends in need, okay, they are not very many. And it takes time for you to get them to that level. All right. First, the air will come out. Second, the corn will come out. Third, the full corn in the year. That is the time when the man goes in to harvest the crop. That is the time when those relationships will answer to you at your time of need in very practical times. So, relationship building develops over time. You have to be patient. It goes through stages. You have to give it what it takes at every point. And like the parable of the sower tells us, at when the harvest, when the harvest is ripe, then you move in to take advantage. At that point, both of you have developed a very strong bond, and you are committed to each other. You are committed to each other. All right. So again, that is using the parable of the growing seed to shed some light on how it can help you to build strong relationships. I need to round up now. And I think I'll look at this as maybe the last. For now, the parable of the invited guest, some call it the parable of the marriage feast or the parable of the marriage banquet. And here, what happened in this parable? A man, prepared, he was organized a wedding feast for his son. And then what did he do? He sent his servants to go and call those he had invited, for whom he had made elaborate preparations, to come so that they can feast, celebrate, and rejoice with him. And then the servant went the first round, they came back that no, the people said they weren't coming. And he said, no, go back to them again. Tell them that, all things are ready. I've prepared everything for them. They should just come. Let's make merry. They should come and celebrate with me. And the servants went again, and they came back with bad news that, look, those guys said that they have one thing or the other to do. Each one kept giving excuses. And then the man said, he was upset. He said, okay, no problem. Then go and call anybody. Go to the streets, go to the highways, just call as many people as you can. The feast is already there. Those guys don't want it, don't mind them. Let those who have value for what I have done, let them come. And so they went and called all manner of people, and those ones came firsthand, came, settled down, celebrated with him. Somewhere towards the end, he saw somebody who was not properly dressed, and he was wondering, how did you get in here? That person sort of looked strange. And then he said to his servants that they should get rid of that person. They should, get the person out of the banquet. So that's that parable for you. Think about it. What can you learn from that? How does that help you to develop strong relationships? And so I'm talking here about when you are taking for granted in your relationships. When you are taking for granted in your relationships. One of the things I said when we were illustrating with the parable of the fishing net is that you're going to have a lot of, you go out, of course, to cultivate relationships. And when you start cultivating the relationships, you're going to attract both good relationships and bad relationships, or good people and bad people. But you have to get to the point where you separate the good from the bad. So you throw the bad away and you can focus on developing your relationship with the good. Now, this tells you that when it comes to relationship building, there is a point where you can separate the good from the bad. All right, because somebody may ask, how do I know who is good and how do I know who is bad? This parable helps you to answer that question. These also, should remember, I said, one of the reasons that you need to study these parables is that, no, you may think that a parable is standing alone. No. All right. Every parable is unique. Yes. Every parable puts a principle in your hands. Yes. But guess what? A combo of parables, a combination of parables improves and deepens your understanding of particular issues. All right. So you may, if you focus on just one parable and that's all you know, all right, the fact that you don't know some other parables can weaken your ability to get certain kinds of results. That's why Jesus was saying to them, you need to know all the parables. Because if you have knowledge of all the parables, your understanding is more wholesome. Is more wholesome, and you can deal with issues more effectively. So if you were asking before, how do I separate the wheat from the chaff? You know, the good relationships from the bad. This is one way to do that. When you have celebration, when you have things that people need to support, you know, that people need to help you with, all right, who are the people that show up? Who are those that show up? Who are those that show any interest? Who are those who offer, you know, the hand of fellowship? That's what this man discovered. He was celebrating his son who was getting married, and he sent invitations to people he believed to be, you know, friends. To he believed that he had good relationship with them. And look at what happened. Each one, he had prepared, he had spent money, he had taken all the time, and here he was, each one giving some flimsy excuse or the other when the day came. I'm sure before that day, they would have been telling him, don't worry, I'm going to be there. We're going to come and celebrate with you. But when the day came, when push came to shove, they were nowhere to be found. In fact, they were located because he still had to send people. I mean, imagine you sending people you have invited now, sending your servants to their houses on the D-Day, you know, to come and honor the invitation. All right. So, and they still did not come. They still did not come. Interestingly, the servant, not that the servants didn't see them, the servants saw them, and they were giving, each one was giving one excuse after the other. What it meant was that they did not value the relationship that they had with this man. What it meant was that they didn't place this man at the level where this man placed them. Okay, and what did the man do? Very promptly, he said, okay, forget them. After he made an effort, because the first time he sent people, bad enough that he had to send people, they came back, he sent them again. Okay, and they came back, still nothing had changed. The people weren't willing to come. And then he said, look, forget them. Go and get, you know, so he threw out his net once again. Okay, and that tells you, it tells you a lot of things, by the way. Some of us feel disappointed when, you know, people betray us. We don't know that what the circumstance that revealed the betrayal was helping us to identify the relationships that do not profit us, that are simply a waste of our time, you know, but we have failed to get rid of that. So there are the time when you have need is a time, you know, times of celebration. I mean, shouldn't people who want that you hold in high esteem, that you count to be your true friends, shouldn't they be available to celebrate with you? Now, maybe if one or two had not shown up and others came, okay, maybe it would have been, but none of them came. So it means that they were playing high service. They've been playing high service all along with you. They really don't count you, you know, as a good friend. If they won't do that when you invited them to come and eat your food, to spend your money, imagine when you are in need, will they be there for you? The answer, I'm sure you can answer that. Excuse me. I'm sure you can answer that, you know, very easily yourself. So again, that parable helps you in that regard. Now I need to bring this to a close. You've enjoyed already 15 minutes more uh, than I had earmarked for your category of registration. It's 45 minutes. I need to move on to the VIP to continue for the next 45 minutes. But I guess my last word here is relationships that happen. And here I, will refer you to the parable of the Good Samaritan. Okay. Uh, the long and short, let me say, why did I say relationships that happen? Because at the end of the encounter of the Good Samaritan, the man who was attacked, a man was attacked by robbers, all right, and some people passed by and they didn't attend to him in his very bad shape, not until a stranger passed that is called a Good Samaritan, who then decided to pay attention to him, to spend money on him, took him to where he will be taken care of, to nurture him back, to his healthy self. And a relationship came out of that, a relationship that the man who was attacked never imagined, never planned for, never went out to seek. What am I saying? That some of our best relationships, they will come out of situations that, out of dire situations, out of situations of extreme need. And that parable, among others, is telling us to be sensitive. All right? It's telling us to be sensitive. I mean, you and I can imagine the nature of the relationship that would transpire between the man that was helped and the Good Samaritan, all right, after all of that episode. I bet that that relationship would have become, very strong, very, very strong, all right. And the man who was helped, it's not likely, if you were in that position, that you would allow the Good Samaritan to go without, getting to know him more, and without ensuring that you have a relationship with him, you stay close to him, so again, you see that perspective. I bet, from all the time you've been listening to the parable of the Good Samaritan, you may never have looked at the relationship side of it. Okay. But of course, it also tells you which kind of, relationships are value added by answering the question, who is your neighbor indeed? Who is your neighbor indeed? Okay. Who is your neighbor indeed? So that's it. And we're going to stop, here for today. The parable of the lost sheep has some relevance. I've chosen not to speak to that, this evening already. Our time is up. So again, from our discussion so far, you can identify the risks that you run with relationships. Okay, there are risks in trying to build relationships, and it's important to identify them so that we can take care of them, so they don't crystallize, and we are left high and dry in our quest to build, towers, as we had initially mentioned. So, on the one hand, you look at the risk. On the other hand, you also must have taken note of, factors that can boost your relationship building aspirations. Okay, all of them. If you think through all that we have discussed this evening, you can, identify a few of those, and you can identify additional words that I may not have had time to mention, or perspectives that, may have occurred to you, or, you may have known before now. That helps your understanding of the usefulness of these parables as far as relationship building is concerned. And that's what we expect you to be able to take away, so that at least you can start changing your experience in that area from right away. So what issues are hindering your relationship goals? What issues are hindering your relationship goals? Think about them, make a list of them, begin to think about which parables can help you to resolve them, to overcome them. That's part of the benefits that this program offers. Tomorrow, we're going to be addressing the subject of managing our finances, managing our finances. It will be the 6th day and the 5th module. Okay, managing finances. We'll look at that. Again, we'll use a handful of parables to illustrate how the parables of Christ help us in this very important area. So far, I hope you have seen that the parables are not just parables, but they can add very significant value to you. So once again, those who are interested in joining, the VIP session, there's a QR code that I've just posted. You can scan the code, go ahead and, visit the site, and you can indicate your interest there, and then you will get a Zoom link, and you can join us at the VIP sessions either tonight if you still can make it up, or you continue with the sessions, with the VIP sessions starting from tomorrow. You still have 5 days and perhaps 6 actually with the bonus wrap-up session, to enjoy that. And at the VIP session, we spend another 45 minutes, and you can imagine that we spend typically more than 45 minutes. And the opportunity that VIPs have is they can ask questions. So I'm sure you've, listened to a couple of things. You would love to ask some questions, but you can ask questions and have me to respond specifically to your questions, when you come on the VIP platform. All right, so that's where it is. And for those who are already beginning to think about the more detailed adventure, which is called Profit from Parables Bootcamp, join other colleagues and let's walk through all the parables one by one. It's a very detailed program. It will be very enriching, and we're not just going to be summarizing the parables. We're going to read them. We're going to take, you will see greater insights from reading them and reading even different renditions of them. As you know, some of those parables appear in 3 books, in Matthew, in Mark, in Luke. Some appear in John, 1 or 2, but for the most part, so we'll look at them, and the various renditions, add flavor and add very interesting, dimensions to how we interpret those parables, and they can make the difference. So it promises to be enriching. Again, you can scan that, you go to the website, and you get a lot more detail about what it's going to entail. And there are different categories of registrations actually. So please check out my website by scanning that code, and secure your seat ahead of when that session will be holding. It's starting in August by the grace of God, and I look forward to seeing all of you join. And by the way, there is a guarantee that if you went through that other program and it doesn't change your life, please ask for your money back. I'll be too glad to refund it. I am beyond sure that you can't return from an adventure like that, the same. You will return with strength, with power to dominate your space, to get higher quality outcomes, the remaining days of your life. Thank you once again. Tomorrow we'll see you. We'll be discussing managing finances, looking at the parables to help us. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your night and have a wonderful week ahead. Tomorrow is Monday. Have a wonderful week. We meet again, tomorrow, and the time is 9:30 West African time.